We're up on East 28th Street. This is supposedly the site of where a brutal massacre happened. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you were wondering where my family is from, they're from Erie. And if you were wondering what our slogan is, we love Erie. And if you were wondering where our fair city is, it's by the lake. And if you were wondering what our famous catchphrase is, we love Erie.
In the mid-1600s, this area was home to a large village of indigenous people. Legend has it that it was the location of a lost city known as Rique or Rique. Somewhere between 3,000 and 6,000 people lived here at one time. It also may be the location of one of the bloodiest battles in history. Rique was a large palisaded city. Between its wooden walls were the political and cultural center of the Erie Nation. A massive fortress that stretched for several blocks and encompassed what is now East 28th Street in Southeast Erie. We needed to know more, so let's get into this.
You ever walk down a totally normal street and just wonder, what's right under your feet? What or who might be buried just a few feet below? Well, today we are peeling back the pavement on an incredible story about a lost settlement, a forgotten people, and a discovery that literally rewrote the history of a city. And no, this isn't just some hypothetical question. It is the absolute heart of a real-life mystery that was hiding for centuries right under the streets of a modern American city. So we're gonna follow the clues that took this from just a whispered rumor to a totally shocking archaeological find. Okay, so our story kicks off in Erie, Pennsylvania. For years, people had kind of talked about this old settlement that time had just erased. It was basically local legend. And then in 1949, those whispers suddenly became very, very real, all thanks to a totally ordinary construction project. And that brings us right here to the heart of it all, the East 28th Street site. This is the exact spot where a simple plan to build a house accidentally tore a window open into a whole forgotten world. I mean, just picture this. You've got workers leveling the ground for a new house, something they do every single day. But then their blades hit something, and it's not rock, it's pieces of pottery. Now, they had no idea at the time, but they had just stumbled onto the very first clue in a mystery that was centuries old. And check this out. This isn't just some broken shard. Look at the craftsmanship here, the flared rim, the shape. This was made by seriously skilled artisans. It's a nearly complete pot, which is amazing. It's a direct physical link to the people who made it and used it. And it tells us something really important. They weren't just passing through. They had a real home here. But this is where the story takes a turn. As archaeologists started to carefully look at the site, they realized it was more than just an old village. The discovery was about to get a lot more personal and, honestly, a lot more profound. They had found a burial ground. 5. That's the number. 5 distinct, individual graves were eventually excavated. 5 lives, 5 stories. Each one was intentionally laid to rest right here, turning this random patch of dirt into a sacred final resting place. And this right here, this was the moment everything changed. The confirmation came when they found human remains, like the jawbone you see here. Suddenly, this wasn't just a collection of old discarded things anymore. This was a cemetery. And that shifted the whole focus from, what was here to who was here. So along with the discovering of the graves came this incredible collection of artifacts, things that were buried on purpose with the deceased. And this is where the investigation gets really fascinating, because these items aren't just objects, they're clues that help us piece together the lives, the beliefs, and the entire world of this forgotten community. Just take a look at this collection. Archaeologists call these grave goods, and for them, it's like hitting the jackpot. You can see all this intricate beadwork, tools, personal jewelry. These things tell us what was important to these people, what they truly valued, and maybe even what they believed the person would need in the afterlife. And what's amazing is that each grave tells its own unique story. In one, they found a simple bracelet made of brass beads, but in another, a truly spectacular necklace with over 750 blue and white glass beads. Just wow. Grave 3 had bone beads in a clay pipe, which might suggest a respected elder. In Grave 5 contained a flint point, maybe a hunter's tool. Every single object gives us this little flicker of insight into the person laid to rest there. Okay, so this is where the story gets even cooler. The artifacts show a culture at a major crossroads. I mean, look, on one side you've got traditional, locally made things, native pottery, flint points, stone pipes, but right alongside them you find stuff that could have only come from Europe. We're talking glass beads, scraps of brass and copper, even an iron axe head. This tells us this wasn't some isolated community. These people were plugged into the huge trade networks of the 17th century. And these objects really ground us in their day-to-day life. You know, the flint points and the iron axe head on the left, those were tools for survival, for hunting and building. And the pottery on the right, that was for cooking, for storing food. Together, they paint this amazing picture of a people who were self-sufficient, but also really savvy traders, mixing new technologies right into their traditional way of life. So the big question is, who were these people? All these clues, the unique mix of artifacts, the location, the timing, it all started pointing archaeologists toward one powerful and really compelling theory, that they had found a piece of a specific named nation whose story had been tragically cut short. And that brings us to the Erie Nation and their main town, which was called Rique. For a lot of the early 1600s, the Erie were a major power in this region. They pretty much controlled the trade routes south of the lake that now actually has their name. And Rique wasn't just some village, it was their capital. It was their center of power and culture. But here's the thing, their dominance was shockingly brief. Around 1654, a brutal war exploded between them and the powerful Iroquois Confederacy. And in just 2 years, it was over. The Erie Nation was effectively destroyed. The few survivors were scattered or absorbed into other groups, and in all that chaos, their great town just vanished from maps and from memory. Its location became one of the region's greatest historical mysteries. So where does that leave us? Well, after studying everything, the experts came to a clear conclusion. The style of the pottery, the specific timing of the European trade goods, it all pointed directly to the historic Erie people, right at that specific moment in time just before their tragic downfall.
The Iroquois came down and they had a battle with the Eries here.
Okay.
And it said that they slaughtered the tribe. There's actually even says that the blood ran knee deep in certain places.
So that incredibly harrowing account, it comes from a missionary back in the 17th century. And he's describing the final moments of a war that most people have completely forgotten. It's a brutal, shocking image, right? And it's the very beginning of a mystery that would go unsolved for centuries.
So you have an entire people, the Erie Nation, who were pretty much wiped from the face of the earth in this one devastating war. And the location of their final stand, this big fortified town they had, it just vanished from history. So the big question for us is, can we actually find it?
Now, here is a crucial piece of the puzzle. The historical accounts actually give us a name. The end of this war wasn't a bunch of small fights, no. It all came down to a single, massive siege at a major Erie town called Rique, and that is the place we're looking for. And Rique was no small village, not by a long shot. Get this, that number, 3,000 to 4,000, that's the estimated number of warriors who were defending the town. So if you add in all the women and children, the total population was probably in the many thousands. For its time, this place was basically a metropolis. So after that horrifying battle, after the carnage that the missionaries described, Rique just disappears. The survivors were either killed, captured, or scattered to the winds. And the memory of where their capital city once stood, it just faded away. It became a ghost on the landscape of history. For hundreds of years, that's where the story ended. The trail went cold. But the search for Rique picks up again in a really unlikely place, a modern industrial city. It turns out the secret wasn't on some old map. it was buried in the soil. So let's fast forward about 300 years to a specific spot in Erie, Pennsylvania. It's this gravelly hill, and the locals just know it as the 28th Street site. For a very long time, it was just a place where companies came to dig for gravel. But as they dug, they started finding other stuff. Things that were definitely not just rocks. We're talking burials, fragments of pottery, stone tools. For decades, this stuff just kept coming out of the ground, hinting that this was a lot more than just an ordinary hill. Okay, so what do all these accidental discoveries actually tell us? Well, once archaeologists got involved and really started to study these finds, a very clear picture started to emerge from the dirt. I mean, just look at this pottery they were able to reconstruct. This isn't the kind of rough, simple stuff you'd find at a temporary hunting camp. No way. This is sophisticated, well-made pottery. It tells you that the community here was settled, they were skilled, and they were stable. And it was way more than just pottery. The sheer variety of the items is just stunning. You have personal things like beads and pipes right alongside functional tools like projectile points and axes. This paints a picture of a really complex society, with art, culture, and its own distinct way of life. So when you put all of that archaeological evidence together, the hundreds of burials, the quality of the pottery, the huge range of artifacts, the conclusion is pretty much unavoidable. The 28th Street site was once home to a large, thriving, and permanent town. Okay, so we've established that there was a big town right here in what is now modern-day Erie. But who were these people? To answer that, we actually have to step away from the archaeology for a second and go back to the history books for a totally different kind of clue. Let's circle back to the people we started this story with, the Erie. French missionaries and explorers had a nickname for them. They called them the Nation of the Cat, or in some translations, the Panther Nation. And this was simply because their territory was known for having a lot of what we'd call panthers or mountain lions. Now remember that name, the Cat Nation. It's really important. Because sometimes in these old mysteries, the biggest clue isn't buried at all. It's been hiding in plain sight the whole time, just locked away in a single word. And here it is. This is the linguistic key that unlocks the whole mystery. In the early 1900s, an ethnologist named J.N.B. Hewitt was studying Iroquoian languages, and he made an incredible connection. The name of the lost town, Rique, well, it's not just some random sound. It literally means at the place of the panther. So now we have two powerful, completely separate lines of evidence. We have the story the ground is telling us, and we have the story from the historical and language records. So it's time to bring them together and deliver the verdict. Let's just lay it all out, side by side. History tells us about a large, fortified Erie town that was destroyed around 1656. Archaeology shows us a large, permanent settlement, and the dates match perfectly. History tells us the town was called Rique, place of the panther, the nickname for the Erie people. The archaeological site is located in the modern city of Erie. History tells us about a massive battle with huge casualties. The archaeology reveals the site with extensive burials. The pieces don't just fit, they lock together perfectly. Which leaves us with this one final, powerful question. While we might never know for 100% certain if this specific spot was the great capital of Rique itself, the evidence is pretty overwhelming that this was a community of the Erie people. A final resting place hidden away for centuries for the members of a nation that was on the very brink of vanishing from history.
Well, that's about all the time we have for today. We hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.